let me tell you about one of the most mind-blowing survival stories to ever come out of World War II. Seriously, it's a true story that just seems to break all the laws of physics. This is the story of Sergeant Alan Magee, and a fall that no one should have survived.
It all comes down to this one number, 22,000. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. That's the height, in feet, that a man fell and somehow lived to tell the tale.
Yep, 22,000 feet. We're talking about a fall of over 4 miles, straight down. And to make matters worse, his parachute was useless.
So this brings us to the big question, right? The one that just baffles everybody who hears about this. How on earth can a person possibly survive something like that?
Okay, so to even begin to wrap our heads around this miracle, we've got to rewind. We need to understand who this guy was and the insane mission that put him in that impossible situation in the first place.
So picture this, it's a cold morning, January 3rd, 1943. Sergeant Alan Magee, he's a ball turret gunner on a B-17 bomber. They called it Snap, Crackle, Pop. And they're on a bombing run over Nazi-occupied France. But mid-flight, everything goes wrong. They're ambushed by German fighter planes.
And just like that, the inside of that bomber turned into, well, a flying hell. An absolute nightmare.
I mean, try to put yourself there for a second. The smoke is so thick you can't breathe. There's the roar of fire all around you. The sound of metal just screaming as it's being ripped apart. And in the middle of all this chaos, Alan Magee gets hit by shrapnel. He's wounded and he's bleeding.
So he has this split-second, absolutely horrifying choice to make. Does he stay on the plane that's literally on fire and breaking apart around him, which is certain death, or does he jump out into the freezing cold, empty air with maybe a tiny chance of survival?
He jumps. He chooses the great, terrifying unknown. But then, the ultimate gut punch. He reaches for his parachute only to realize it's been shredded by gunfire. It's completely useless.
All right, now we get to the part of the story that is just, it's beyond belief. The part that scientists and historians are still trying to figure out. The impossible landing. A literal 1 in a million impact that defied all logic.
So, as he's plummeting towards the ground, he's hit terminal velocity, we're talking over 120 miles an hour, and he sees something totally unexpected below him. It's not a field, it's not a forest, it's the glass roof of the Saint-Nazaire train station.
What happened next was like this perfect, improbable sequence of events. First, his body smashes through that big glass roof. The glass shattering acted almost like a fragile net, slowing him down just enough. Then the steel girders of the roof actually buckled under the force, absorbing the rest of that insane impact. He crashed onto the station floor, unconscious, but somehow, impossibly, still alive.
The first people to get to him were locals. And you can imagine, they weren't expecting to find a person. They were expecting to find, well, you know. But there he was, a living, breathing man, lying in all that shattered glass and twisted metal. They were stunned.
You know, surviving the fall itself? That's one miracle. But what came next? That was a whole other level. This part of the story is all about a will to live that was just stronger than death itself.
I mean, the list of his injuries is just, it's brutal. The German soldiers who captured him and gave him medical care, they couldn't believe it. He had multiple skull fractures, his arm was almost severed, a broken leg and ankle, a fractured chest, a punctured lung. By all rights, any one of those should have been fatal.
But you know, when Magee talked about it later, he didn't talk about physics or luck. He gave a totally different explanation. He said, and this is a quote, "I felt during the fall that a force was embracing me." What an incredible thing to say.
Somehow, through all of that, his heart just kept on beating. He was treated as a prisoner of war, and after weeks of just grueling recovery, he actually started to heal.
And this is maybe the wildest part of the whole thing. After he was liberated, after everything he'd been through, he didn't just go home. No, he insisted on returning to active duty and served until the war was over. Unbelievable!
So, what do you even make of a story like this? What was it? A miracle of faith? Some kind of pre-written destiny? Or just a 1 in a billion fluke of physics and pure dumb chance? It's a story that really makes you question what's possible, and it leaves you wondering what other impossible things are just waiting for the right moment to happen.